So you guys really love the high maintenance series, and I am here to bring you another installment in it. If you are new here, the goal behind the high maintenance series is to create content that emboldens you guys to put yourselves first. In many cases, the idea of putting oneself first, especially when seen through the eyes of manipulative, toxic, abusive, or negative, hateful people, can be treated like it is some kind of inherently selfish or bad thing to do. And in my case, anytime I have kind of had that putting myself first energy, I have been called high maintenance, and it was never a compliment. Because at the end of the day, people in our lives that do not support our growth really just want to control us, and they clearly don't have a lot of love or respect for themselves, so they're pretty intent on making sure we don't have any for ourselves either. And truthfully, putting yourself first and focusing on your growth in any area of your life, whether it's financially, psychologically, or physically, only serves to create a huge net positive in your life. And it's actually seen as a very attractive in front of the right people. And some people are still really confused about the point of these videos, and I can tell they're not even watching them because we haven't even talked about the physical or material aspect of being high maintenance at all. So far, it's just been mindsets and belief systems. So I guess be mad about this all you want, but we ain't asking you to maintain us anyway, so I don't know why you're worried about it, but okay. There are actually 6 high maintenance, life-changing high maintenance mindset shifts that I'm going to be talking to you guys about, but I had to break it down into 2 different videos because I wanted to make sure that I was able to touch on all the different aspects and benefits of doing this, be really thorough. You know how wordy I am. So if you want to see part 2, make sure you are subscribed and hit that notification bell so you know the second that it goes up. And before we get started, make sure you take the down bar, links on my social media platforms. Come hang out on Patreon where we have bonus content, the book club, and live streams. I either already have or am about to put up a video about kind of like a high maintenance self-care shower routine, and there is an extended cut of that video going live on Patreon. So if you want to see that whole thing, that's where you're going to find it. But yeah, let's just get started. So the first high maintenance life-changing, high maintenance mindset shift that we need to make is that we do not save our best for others. And this is something that I truly think all of us at one time or the other have experienced, right? So let's say you're getting ready to go to work. You know, you're just feeling yourself a little bit that day. You take the extra 30 minutes on your hair and makeup, put on your best heels, and you walk into work, you're feeling like $1,000,000. And don't you know it, the negative Nancy of the office at some point is going to kind of give you the face and say,
"Who are you so dressed up for?"
This is something I have heard my whole life, literally since I was like 13 or 14. It's kind of crazy. But when we started talking about the high maintenance energy on the channel, tons of you chimed in and said you have experienced it as well. And I find that so interesting for a number of reasons, but I'm going to talk about 2 really quickly. The people in your life that kind of have that, what are you doing all this for? Who are you trying to impress? What are you doing? That whole vibe. Those people, number 1, are just paying entirely too much attention to what you're doing. It's a little bizarre if you stop and think about it. And number 2, it kind of reeks of what I call fancy guest towel energy. You know, there's people out there who have fancy guest towels that they only pull out when folks are coming to the house, and every other day of the week they're just wiping their hands off on their pajama pants. That's fancy guest towel energy. We do not have fancy guest towel energy. And why not? Because I truly believe that first of all, saving your best things or your nicest things only for company or only on special occasions, honestly, is kind of a waste of money because, hey, life is a special occasion. And number 2, I think it just kind of reinforces this idea in our head that in order to live our best life, whatever that looks like for you, there needs to be an audience present for it. If you are only at your best, using your best things, or being the best version of yourself when other people are around, then you really just kind of start to equate things like success or fun or happiness with the approval and validation of other people. You have an emotional house, and let's say you want to decorate your emotional house with like an airy boho aesthetic, but everybody else tells you, no, that's not actually what you want. What you want is Scandinavian minimalism. Like, you can let them, you know, have control of the situation, but you're still the one that has to live there, girl. You really have to be the one who takes the reins on this kind of stuff. And if there's one thing about me, there's so many of the things I talk to you guys about in this series and that I will talk to you about in this series are things I've had to learn the hard way. It's stuff I wasn't doing and I reaped the consequences of it heavily at one time or another in my life. But this is one of the areas I'm going to give myself a pat on the back and say that I've really never had a problem with letting other people tell me who I am or what I want or make me feel bad about any of those things. It's something I've literally heard my whole life. Like I said, what are you so dressed up for? I just do what I want to do. Same thing with like my career choices. I'm sure at many times in my life, people were like, actually, I'm not even sure. I know. They were like, oh, you want to be a makeup artist? Like, good luck with that. It's just something you're going to hear. I've never let it bother me though. I've never been the type of person who, if I want to change my hair or if I want to buy a new outfit or wear something to dinner, I am not asking anyone's opinion on what they think of it. I never do that. I never have. So good for me on that, I guess. But this is something I have seen so many times in my life, not just from like friends and family. One of the places I would see this the most was when I was doing makeup professionally for like weddings and stuff. I would have these trials where the bride would come to me. I would do her makeup. She would look in the mirror, be absolutely obsessed with it. And then inevitably she would turn over to the bride of the maid of honor or the mother of the bride or whatever and be like, well, what do you guys think? And then the friends or whomever would tell her that it wasn't cute or it didn't look like her. Or why didn't you change this? Or why did you do that? And then you could just see the wheels turning in this girl's head and she would just get so deflated because she had no idea what she wanted. And that is just not the vibe. That's not high maintenance energy at all. Like we can seek counsel when absolutely necessary, but the most basic decisions that you make about your life to include how you're wearing your makeup on your wedding day, that is not the time to seek the approval of other people. Again, you're just training yourself to believe that I need everyone to be okay with this. You do not need permission to like the things that you like or do the things that you want to do. And like I said, we're not carrying this energy into other aspects of our life. Like think about it like this, you can be eating microwave popcorn for dinner every day this week, but the second company's coming over, you'll throw together a little stew, or you'll wear your hair in the same greasy bun for like 5 days in a row. But the second you have an event to go to, you'll get a full-blown blowout. Now, obviously, I'm not suggesting you have to get a blowout all the time, but what I'm saying is we cannot live our lives like it's a performance for other people and expect that is actually going to bring us true happiness. If anything, it's going to put you on this hamster wheel of trying again to seek the validation and approval of other people, and you're getting further and further away from knowing what you actually want and doing what actually feels good to you. I've told you guys this before many times. I will get comments from girls, DMs from girls, messages from girls being like, I really want to start wearing makeup, but I'm afraid of what my friends would think. Or I really want to wear a smoky eye, but I don't think my boyfriend will like it. And I'm just always like, get new friends and get a new boyfriend. Like it just shouldn't, it's not a democracy the way that you carry yourself. And as I said in the beginning of the video, the people who are really gang for you want to see you explore and try new things and discover new aspects of your personality. They should in no way feel threatened by that, nor should they even feel entitled to chime in on it at all, quite frankly. I mean, you guys think about it. We're in a time where so many of our old habits and routines have been disrupted because of lockdown and things of that nature. And of course, there is a fine line between just completely going to a slovenly depressive state and putting on an ostrich feather robe and full beat to walk around the house. But we need to be hanging out on that line a little more. I've said it before, and that's why I made the hygiene video that I made. Taking care of yourself through showers and brushing your teeth and changing out of your pajamas every day. There have been studies done that show that this type of action has a huge benefit to your overall well-being and mentality, especially during more tumultuous or scary times. It really doesn't help the scenario. It feels more comfortable to kind of revert to like the sweatpants and spaghetti stained t-shirt moment, but it's not helping you, and you do not need other people to see it for it to be worth doing. And that goes along with, this kind of idea we have where we have nice perfume, but we only wear it when other people are going to smell it. We have a nice pair of shoes, but we're only going to wear it if we're going somewhere where it's going to be Instagrammed. Like we just can't live in that world because it's so easy to. We're almost conditioned to at this point, but that's just not high maintenance energy. And I would argue until you can get on your own team and really double down on being authentic to yourself and doing what you want, no matter what these people have to say, I wouldn't even continue watching the rest of this video or any of the other videos because it's kind of pointless. This journey has to be about you and what's good for you, and everybody else can just go kick a can, I guess. The number 2 life-changing high maintenance mindset that you need to adopt is that we take responsibility for our actions. People who are incapable of taking responsibility for their actions are the people who are probably not going to be capable of having successful or happy lives. Happiness and success are going to look very different to everyone, but to me, happiness and success are qualified by the fact that I am doing what I want to do and I'm happy to be doing it with people who are happy to watch me doing it that I am happy to be around. If you cannot or are unwilling to take responsibility for your actions, you will move through and approach life as if it is just this thing that is happening to you that you have no control of and you are a perpetual victim of. These are the kind of people who swear they were just born with bad luck, or someone who just has a string of painfully failed relationships that just swear up and down it's because there's no good men out there. People who feel like they were completely gypped out of their chance to live their dreams because they never caught a break in life. Having that mentality is really just you giving yourself permission not to try any harder. It gives you permission, either consciously or unconsciously, to stay in jobs that you hate, in relationships that aren't serving you, or in towns that you cannot stand one more second of. If you cannot look at your life and take ownership of the choices that you made that put you where you are also not going to be capable of looking at the exact same life and seeing that you and you alone are the catalyst for changing them. Again, you change them for the worse. You can also change them for the better. No one wants to be called out, even if it's by themselves. No one does. It doesn't feel good. We will avoid it like the plague. It's scary and it's not a feeling that we like. In fact, we hate that feeling so much that we are all too quick and all too happy to sit around and watch other people and judge other people and spew our righteous indignation over their life choices in comment sections below drama videos. Like, it's just, as long as it ain't us, right? Like, as long as it ain't me, I'm here for it. But in my opinion, you are probably better off avoiding gossip and drama channels and things like that, period. Number 1, as I already stated, high maintenance women, men, girls, and boys are not spending this much time worried about the choices and decisions and mistakes of other people. We're too busy worrying about our own shit. And number 2, I don't believe for one second that sitting around and making judgment a hobby has good long-term effects on you. I just believe that over time, you're going to start to slowly become more judgmental of yourself and more critical of yourself. And I would argue that a lot of people who are drawn to this type of content and enjoy it so much probably already are that critical and judgmental of themselves. So it's just a good outlet for them to just put it somewhere else instead of having to live with it. But even if you're not already that type of person, just the action of making blame and judgment a hobby, it will come back on you. It is as without, so within, with everything in life. And I just don't think it's the move. I wouldn't recommend it, but that's just my opinion. I don't think that being preoccupied with the opinion of others, even if it's not even about you, is a good way to move through life. But that's just where I am. There's no upside to it as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, nobody likes to be in the proverbial hot seat. It's so much easier and more comfortable to deflect blame and point fingers at other people. I mean, we've seen enough YouTube apology videos to see that that is just the drug of choice for lots of people in that situation. It's why people will lie about things they were seen doing on camera. They will do anything to avoid taking responsibility for their actions. And because they can't take responsibility for what they've done, they cannot be a catalyst for change. They can't stop it. They can't do anything about it because they don't think it was their fault. No matter what they do, it's not their fault. And in my opinion, I think people do this because they think it makes them look, or they're trying to come off as perfect, incapable of mistake, and above reproach. And in reality, to anyone that has 2 brain cells to rub together, you can look at people who go out of their way to avoid blame at all costs. And in my opinion, it looks really weak. It just makes you look scared, just terrified of what other people will think of you, because anyone worth a crap will not be just when you screw up. And again, that's why I'm saying stay away from these drama channels and stuff like that, because you're just conditioning yourself to think that when you screw up, the whole world's going to laugh at you. Those kind of people might laugh at you, but is that really the type of people you're trying to live your life for? And if you're following rule number 1, you ain't living your life for anyone but yourself anyway, right? You will earn 100 times more respect, 100 times more respect from people if you can just be like, yeah, I screwed up, but I know what I was thinking, full stop. than this kind of like, well, no, attitude that lots of people in this situation can kind of adopt. And no one worth a damn wants to be around people like that, I promise. Side note, if you know anyone who has a long pattern of these things, deflecting blame, avoiding accountability, denying responsibility, etc., and notice that I'm saying a pattern, then you might be dealing with someone who is suffering with narcissistic personality disorder and you need to get away from them. In February, I'm going to have a lot of love and relationship style content because like Valentine's Day. And I'm going to make a video about this. I talk about this on Patreon all the time, and it's time I bring it over here, so stay tuned if you're interested in that. Also, before I move on, I just want to say that I am aware that some people, myself included, do benefit and have a certain level of privilege that other people in certain socioeconomic situations, certain races, certain genders, certain people with disabilities do not have. So I just want to be clear, this is not a pull yourself up by your bootstraps and work harder talk. That's not the point of it whatsoever. I acknowledge that there are situations that are absolutely beyond our control, are 100% not our fault. That's not what I'm saying. It's not that extreme, and we'll get more into that in the next point. But we do, at the end of the day, have to look at things for what they are and figure out where we can be the catalyst for positive change in our lives. Again, I'm not saying it's that cut and dry for every situation and every person. I really hope that anyone watching my videos can kind of extrapolate what you need from them and just really leave what's not serving you. So I just wanted to acknowledge that I know there are people who are a lot more privileged and benefit from systems that other people do not have the ability to. And I don't think it's fair and I don't think it's right. So I just wanted to be clear on that. But yeah, everything in life is not your fault, but you do have to acknowledge the things that are. We just have to. I know I just said that if you're not willing to do the work I mentioned in part 1, and in point 1, that there's no point in watching the rest of the videos, but I probably should have said that this is the point. This is the point in your journey, that if you can't do this part, the rest of it is just white noise, because you can't do anything if you can't acknowledge your own role in your own life. But let's take a practical look at what this looks like, what it really looks like to kind of assess the situation you're in that you're not happy with, walk it back, and figure out how you got yourself into this situation. So, okay, let's say you hate your job and it's ruining your life. You're in a chronic bad mood about it. You dread Monday every single week. You're drinking all weekend because you just want to escape from the humdrum, mind-numbing, stressful situation that is your job. But you took this job and you have to keep this job because your spending has gotten out of control. And your spending started spiraling out of control and became a coping mechanism for dealing with emotional damage that was done by the last dipshit boyfriend that you had. You dated said dipshit for a long time, despite the copious amount of red flags that were present basically from day one that you met the guy, and you're still beating yourself up for ignoring said red flags to this day, which kind of makes you feel like you can't trust yourself, and not trusting yourself makes you feel like you're not capable of making the big kind of life-changing decisions that need to be made in order to progress further in life. Because you just have so much fear surrounding the repercussions that will follow any decision that you make. You ignored said red flags when you met this guy because at the time when you met him, you were really not willing to make a choice about going back to school or taking your career seriously. So getting in a relationship kind of felt like an opportunity to just have some marker of success in life because everybody loves love. And it was just something to cling on to distract you from yourself. So instead of dealing with your career dilemma from a place of choice and with a sense of agency years ago, now you're just right back in the exact same place that you started. You only went the long way about it. So as far as this shitty job you have, is your boss's flagrant disrespect or unreasonable demands of you your fault? No. But have you been instrumental in getting yourself into this position? Yeah. This is what I mean when I say we have to take responsibility for our choices. You got yourself into this mess and you can get yourself out. But not until you're willing to take a hard look at yourself. And this isn't something you're going to get to do one time in your life and never have to do again. This is constant. It doesn't feel good. It's uncomfortable. It's kind of embarrassing sometimes. You don't have to broadcast these revelations to the world or anything like that, but truly being able to sit alone with yourself, this is the definition of being able to sit with yourself, is a skill that unfortunately some people will never ever learn. and they will stay in the same miserable, shitty, dead-end jobs forever because they just don't think they have any culpability here. So therefore, they don't think they can change it. And the last life-changing, high-maintenance mindset shift that we need to make is that we not only have boundaries, but we love enforcing them. And the funny thing about boundaries is that I had never even heard that term, that expression, that phrase, this idea until 2017, and I was 31 years old. So like now it's a buzzword that is just thrown around a lot. And while I'm over the moon that it's a part of the general lexicon, we have to set our focus on not only deciding what our boundaries are, but we need to get really clear about what they're designed to do in the first place. So not only had I never heard of this concept before, I grew up in an environment that encouraged and normalized not having boundaries at all. I love my family dearly, and I have forgiven everyone involved for a lot of things a long time ago. But facts are facts. Healthy relationships were in no way modeled for me. See, here's the thing. If we are not shown how to have a healthy relationship with another person, then we're not shown, truthfully, how to have a healthy relationship with ourselves. I mean, you are never going to meet someone in your life who deeply dislikes or resents themselves, who doesn't trust themselves, who doesn't value themselves, but somehow is having healthy, positive relationships with other people. And they're also not the type of people who find themselves in relationships with healthy people. Like kind of attracts like in that way. Looking back, I kind of realized that I didn't really have a chance in hell, a snow-cone's chance in hell, of recognizing unhealthy or toxic relationships. There was just a complete and total lack of personal space, privacy, acceptance of other people's feelings. Weren't really allowed to talk about them. So you sure as shit weren't going to be appreciated for having them. This type of behavior was so normal to me that by the time I went out into the real world, I just replicated what I knew over and over and over again. You run to what is familiar and you recreate what you know. Think about it. Our parents teach us absolutely everything we know about the world in those formative years of our lives. So it's really ridiculous to assume that we're not walking around really acting out some of those exact same relationship dynamics that we were taught so early on when our brain was still forming and trying to make sense of this is life, this is the world, this is how a woman treats a man, this is how friends treat each other, this is how grandparents treat grandchildren. It just becomes the way the world looks. And then because we tend to go out there and replicate those same things with our other relationships, we just have more relationships that look just like that. And then we are convinced that is just the way the world works, and it's not true. So after I personally saw and experienced everything I saw and experienced, I just, like I said, I went out there and I replicated what I knew. It was just to be expected that if I cared about someone or loved someone, then I was going to be a doormat for them. And it was somehow my responsibility to, I thought love and enmeshment were the exact same thing. I didn't really understand what love truly was. I kind of had this idea of your problems are my problems. My money is your money. I don't deserve access to my feelings because my job is to make everybody else happy. And if they're not happy, then by George, it's my job to fix it. So I'm the oldest child in my family. I'm a classic oldest child in every sense of the word. But I also grew up in a home with substance abuse. And when you have a home that suffers with substance abuse, everyone in the family kind of plays a role. The first time my therapist told me about this, I was like, did you live in my house? It was crazy. But my role as the eldest child ended up fitting me spot on because one of the drug of choice, if you will, for eldest children is control. And the reason I bring all this up is because sometimes when we have these codependent belief systems, like I said, my problems are your problems are my problems. I have to fix you. I have to sacrifice all of my happiness for you. We think, and it might have been taught that is love, but a lot of times what that is you're trying to control the situation. And number one, you ain't in control of anything. If 2020 and 2021 so far hasn't shown us one thing, has shown us anything, it's that we are absolutely not in control. If you walk around believing that you can be perfect enough or be kind enough or be sweet enough and that can influence the behavior of other people. And then when that doesn't work out, you just double down on the idea that there's something wrong with you, so you need to work harder to make other people happy. Like, it's just this horrible circle that you'll find yourself in. And boundaries are helpful in making sure that you really understand where your responsibility for any given situation ends and begins. Because sometimes there are people in this life who are all too happy to hand all of it over to you. You deal with this. This is your problem. I don't want to deal with my feelings. You deal with my feelings. And high maintenance girls don't play that shit. The most toxic and abusive relationships I've ever had in my life in any capacity were completely dependent on the fact that I was willing to play that role. It was basically the air that relationship breathed. And the second I got into therapy and was able to understand this better and started enforcing boundaries, the bad people or the toxic people in my life really showed their true colors and they excused themselves. It completely eliminated the need for me to have another come to Jesus talk ever again. Like, people who are determined to control you through abusive tactics, like, don't want to deal with the fight. You know, they just want you to lay down and take it. And the second it's clear that you're not going to anymore, they will dip 100 times out of 100. I do think I want to make it really clear in wrapping this up what boundaries are and what they are not. So boundaries are not negotiable. Once you put one in place, it's like training a puppy, man. You're going to have to do it 100 times out of 100. They're not punishment and they're not abusive. And you need to pay attention to the people in your life who treat you and your boundaries as if they are abusive, as if they are some form of punishment, because they're really not about the other person. They're there to protect your peace. They're not also meant to try to control anyone. If you think that putting a boundary in place is going to change the makeup and fiber of a person in your life who is consistently a problem, then you're not approaching this from the healthy perspective. The boundary, again, is just to protect your peace. They're also not designed to benefit anyone but you. So don't be surprised if people who used to be able to call you at 2 a.m. and get a free ride home from the bar act like now this boundary that you have is hurting them in some way, and therefore it's hurting the relationship you have with them. Like, nope, that's not what this is. This is to benefit you. It's not meant to or designed to benefit anybody else. And boundaries are intentional, and they have to be intentional. You have to set these out and decide upon them actively. People cannot read your mind. You're going to have to tell them what your boundaries are. And boundaries are also healthy. There is no system or business or job or literally anywhere else in the world that you will interact with other people that there are not boundaries. Now, they're called rules other places, but the only place in the world that we tend to think that people should just be able to walk all over us and do whatever the hell we want is in our interpersonal relationships. But everywhere else in the world, we're willing to accept that boundaries and rules and guiding principles are there and to be followed. Your relationships are truly no different. Boundaries are your responsibility to enforce. You cannot blame people for not listening to them if you're wishy-washy about them and if you vacillate between enforcing them and not enforcing them and, oh, every other Thursday I'll make a big deal about this, but not any other time. Like, no, it's got to be 100 times out of 100. And it's not easy work to do. And again, the hope is that you're able to, A, protect your peace, and then in terms of the more negative, toxic people in your life, they will self-identify in GTFO. Okay, you guys, that is the end of this video. As always, thank you to the patrons. This was a hard video to film today. I'm having, Aunt Flo is coming to town in 48 hours, and the preamble is making my life an absolute hell right now. My brain is not working. So I hope this video was interesting and helpful to you guys. So for Patreon coming up, we have, like I said, the extended cut of the hygiene video. I will have another extended cut video over there soon before the end of January. We have our book club live stream. I think we're going to do a Zoom meeting or something where we can all talk about the book, which is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And then I think in February, since my birthday is February 5th, we're going to do some sort of birthday party thing over there. I'm going to throw my own birthday party like a friggin' loser. But yeah, I hope you guys are having an amazing day. Check the down bar for links on my social media platforms. And I will catch you in the next one.